Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Rhee and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset.
Welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I am Coach David Syvertsen here with my co-host, Dr. and Coach Sam Rhee. We are going to talk about, for the second time in Herd Fit Podcast history, maybe even the third, the new CEO of CrossFit.
Isn't that crazy?
This is just an ongoing topic. Hopefully this one will last. We're going to talk about Don Faul, who is a local guy. He's from down the road. He grew up in Allendale, New Jersey.
Yeah.
A couple of people from our gym know him personally.
Yeah, they went to high school with him.
So maybe someday Mr. Faul will be sitting in between us. We'll try to get that going for you guys. But if not, we're just going to talk about, his plan to make CrossFit better. I've listened to him on a few different outlets. He's definitely making the rounds with different podcasts, and he is not, in my opinion, he's not cherry picking which ones to go on. He just went on with Savan.
I listened. That was a very good one.
It was a good one, and you could tell Savan was trying so hard to not make it confrontational, and then he did, but then he pulled back a little bit.
He's such a suck up. He wants to get back on CrossFit media team.
Oh yeah, there's no question.
So obvious.
No question. But I kind of want to talk about just some of my reflections as a CrossFitter, as a coach, and as a gym owner, where I think this is going to go under him and where I hope it goes. I think anyone that takes on the CEO job of CrossFit has a less than 50% chance of really taking it to another level. I just think it's a really hard job, and it's a really unique business. To quote Savan, he called it a miracle of small business, and it's so true. You can't use case studies from Apple and McDonald's and Burger King and Starbucks to CrossFit. It just doesn't work. I know a lot of smart people in the business industry, and every time they talk about what CrossFit should do, they just don't get it. And that's where I think Eric Rosa and his team that he hired, I think that's where it went south. And I think they found out very quickly, it's just not like your Oracles and your Googles and your Apple. It's just not like that. And it won't ever be. So I just think it's its own entity. And just listening to him talk, it was fun. So Sam, give just a really quick kind of background information on Don Faul, the new CEO of CrossFit.
Yeah. So as you know, he went to school in Allendale, or he grew up in Allendale.
Yep.
Went to the Naval Academy, graduated in 98 with an engineering degree. And then he served for 5 years as a platoon commander with the 1st Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion. And after that, left the military, went to Stanford University Graduate School of Business, and then he took a couple years and made the rounds with some of the Silicon Valley big tech firms. He worked for Google for about a year and a half, and then Facebook for about 4 years. And then he was at Pinterest, and then he worked for a company for the past 6 years called Athos, which was some sort of sports performance measure, metric type place. I'm not even sure what that was. And then he just got hired in August.
Yeah.
A CrossFit CEO. Really odd. I think, talking about the search process and why they picked him over, say, others. What do you think?
So I think I think one of the biggest reasons why he did get picked over other candidates is his military background. I think Dave Castro, who is back with CrossFit in some sort of, I still think, an undefined role. I know he's there for affiliate support, but I don't think he has an official title, at least that I know of. And when Castro came back, I do think he had a lot of say in who they were going to hire for the CEO, who was going to be Dave's boss.
So he was representing sort of the old guard of CrossFit.
Yes. And Dave is a huge military guy. He was a Navy SEAL, and he doesn't talk about it a lot. I do think that he is trying to put himself out there more. So I have heard him talk about his time in the military a little bit more frequently now than he used to, but you can pretty clearly tell that he has a very strong affiliation with military, and CrossFit does too, and that's part of old school CrossFit, which I love. And I think that is, if there was a tie at some point between two candidates, I do think that is what separated him. And it's not just military or die. I think it's the approach. There are a lot of people in CrossFit that say the business itself is very similar to the military in terms of the amount of respect, the amount of accountability, and the amount of self-responsibility that everyone needs to have. It's not a very do this, do this, do this, do that. It's hey guys, here's your job, go out and do it. For example, as a local affiliate, no one is over the top of us telling us what to do. And we like that, right? Some gyms don't, but we like that. They trust us. They trust that we're going to deliver their product to the people and help grow the brand. Where there are some people when, let's say, Eric Roza took over, the way a lot of these businesses take with Apple and Google, like it's very authoritative, a very template, you have to do this way, wear this shirt, use this programming, have your gym look like this, have this much equipment over here, that much of equipment over there. And I think that was one of the fears of having a new person come in with a business background, but not so much a military / CrossFit background.
That legacy is from Greg Glassman.
Yeah.
He didn't want anyone to tell the affiliates what to do.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, that just demonstrated how wide of a quality level there were between affiliates.
Mhm.
I've seen some horrible CrossFit affiliates.
Agreed.
And obviously some amazing ones. And I think that's one of the biggest issues I think Don Faul has to face is how are you going to raise the quality of affiliates without actually instituting the things that a McDonald's or Starbucks or F45 or Orange Theory does with their franchises and affiliates.
It's funny. I've talked to people, again, in the business world that, they like to always just talk business, right? And they're like, whether it's solicited or not. And they like to say like, all right, this is what CrossFit should do. Like I, went to school here and I understand this. And I remember asking, I was like, what can you do to make affiliates really want to be a part of CrossFit now? Because it's not expensive to own an affiliate and pay the affiliate fee, right? It's not cheap, but like for most people, it's not an expensive thing, right? And his first answer was like, well, you have to increase the bottom line. You have to get people to we need to show support with more finances. Where do the finances come from? He goes, you have to raise the affiliate fee. And like, I was like, I told him right away, as people will just like, they'll laugh at you and leave. It's that kind of business.
If that happens, there will be so many functional fitness gyms out there that are doing CrossFit, but not having the CrossFit.
Right. And Don Faul kind of started to touch on this. And this is where I feel like I did connect with him a little bit when I was listening to him on Syvertsen, with Syvertsen, I should say. And he talked about, instead of trying to get more affiliates, right? And just, get to the number 20,000 affiliates. Like, where does that number even come from, right? Like, Rosa's like, we want 500,000 people signing for the Open. Where does the number come from? Like, why? And it's just an objective sign of growth. He was saying more. He's like, we just need to support the affiliates by just getting more people to come to their gym, right? And that stood out to me. His line was not, let's get more affiliates. It was, let's find the people that are not CrossFitting right now, and let's get them to the currently existing CrossFit affiliates. And that was the first thing that I heard that I was like, okay, we're kind of on the same page here. And then they started talking about the CrossFit Journal on that podcast, about how that really is like, that's the Bible of this thing. And it really does not get put out in the open that much. And there's so many articles back from the early days and written by so many different people. It's not just Greg Glassman and Dave Castro and Adrian Bosman. There's so many articles in there written from different walks of life. And he said that we need to get those messages out to people. And they talked, like, I was like, all right, that is, like, I read those articles so much when I first started and when we first started opening the gym. And that's been the foundation of what we've been. And I think a lot of people kind of disconnected from that.
How do you get that and translate that into more people going to the gym?
So I think you need to do similar to, I mean, this was not our intention of having Ron on last week, but I think you need to get messages like his story out there as often, if not more often, than who won the CrossFit Games. A lot of CrossFit media, especially the stuff that gets the most attention, is the sport. It's the Rich Fronings, the Matthew Frasers, the Tias, right? The Catrins, right? Where they're just doing insane things with their body, and it is so respectable. We love it. We admire it. A lot of people aspire to be there at some point. But I think the messages that you can give to people on the outside, that, to quote him, not all CrossFits are not a bunch of 30-year-olds, jacked 30-year-olds, throwing weights around and doing muscle ups. That is a very small minority of CrossFitters. Most of them are just normal, 40, 50-year-olds that just want to come in and get a good workout. We need to get those messages out there.
I remember him saying that, and I remember Syvertsen saying, yeah, you need to just make it grassroots and have all these little stories and all this.
Yeah.
And I can see that to a certain degree, but CrossFit but they also talked about there are competing messages here. CrossFit is aspirational.
Yes.
You should, I mean, not that you ever would expect to be a jacked 30-year-old doing muscle ups, but you should, a lot of people do CrossFit because they want to do
Right.
a lot in terms of their performance. They
Yeah.
want to reach their peak potential. They also want to do muscle ups.
Yeah.
They want to look good.
I mean, Ron just said he wants to get a muscle up by the age of 70. Yeah.
And, they want to look good.
Right.
And so to then sort of flip the message and say, okay, dude who has, who's 5'2" and 280 pounds,
Right.
like, come to the gym.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's a very disparate message. It's just it's very, very conflicting in some ways.
So I would say this. I could tell you about a personal struggle that I've had at the gym. And I think a lot of gym owners could probably reflect to this. Like, I control our social media. Not saying I could do a good job or bad job. I'm just telling people that I control it. So like every Instagram post that we've ever made, I've made, right? And I've always had this internal struggle with, I want to find the proper balance of displaying what our top people can do. The muscle ups, the PRs and the lifts, the fast times, the Dan Cota currently at Masters Fitness Collective, qualifying for an elite workout, elite division work, a competition in Indiana, 3-day comp, right?
The best of the best of our gym.
Right. I want to highlight that. But I don't want to ignore, and I don't even want to say that's the majority of the action that we put on our Instagram. So if you do, and I think I've heard this kind of like, not to my face, but kind of I've heard this through other people, like, oh, he only puts certain people on social media, only does certain caliber athletes. And if you do, like, I've actually have an Excel sheet on who has been on our social media, and if it's performance-centered, community-centered, health-centered.
Oh, you do?
And it's very balanced.
Where am I?
What? Where do you rank?
No, performance or community.
Oh, when you're on there, performance.
Oh, I'm
Absolutely.
just kidding. Stop it.
You are.
No, I've told you before. Don't ever don't ever put me on your Instagram feed.
The time that Sam got most mad at me was when I put that shirtless picture of you doing a pretty heavy lift on the next level.
Oh my God, you know how much crap I got for that? Please do not.
But I think that this is what I think Don Faul's talking about, is there's nothing wrong with highlighting what your top athletes can do because it does inspire other people.
Yes.
I can tell you for a fact that every one of, if you want to say our top athletes, I'm putting that in quotes for those that are not watching, our top athletes, right? What does that even mean? But the people that can RX all of our workouts, are the fastest ones, right? They are not on our social media more than the people that can't do that. Fact. And and I know for a fact that's a fact because I keep track of it. And it's something I think CrossFit can do. But I also don't want to only kind of ignore them and go down the path of like, hey, let's only put the people that are overweight on our social media so that people from the outside can say that there's people overweight here. Or let's only put the beginners on our CrossFit so that other people from the outside could be like, oh, not everyone does pull-ups. A lot of people do ring rows too. Like, I think that both sides need to respect both sides. Like, if you're someone that gets really inspired by seeing people do really hard things on social media and that's going to make you want to go join a CrossFit, cool, go for it. If you're someone that gets a little intimidated by that and you want to see more like, quote, normal people and people that struggle with some of the basic components of fitness, they're going to be on there too. Be inspired by that. Go for it. But I do think that both sides of that argument need to kind of look into each other and say, hey, it's okay if either of those are featured. Now, back to what Don Faul's mission is and what he was talking about is he wants to get out some of these stories. And Savon said they always used to do it, right? Find the overweight stories, like the guys that, were really overweight, really sick, and now they're healthy, right? Because they are both along the lines that they think CrossFit, they're sitting on something that could really change the landscape of world health. What do you think about that?
This is such a hard task for him. And I think it's almost literally impossible because what moves a needle on social media? Like if you said, hey, look at this story about Sam Rhee. He's an old dude who learned how to CrossFit, and now look at him. He's so much better.
Yeah.
Or you look at Justin Medeiros or Danielle Brandon and look what she's doing.
Yeah.
Like the needle will always move when you post Danielle Brandon versus
Very true.
Like some Joe Schmo dude like me.
Very true.
And so how are you going to change that message or make it appealing or marketable? I mean, one thought I had was, but then this is really
you can see that they do this. They make commercials that are like people like picking up like jugs off the ground and stuff. They look they're corny as hell.
They're so stupid. I mean, I think part of it might be, and this is where I think Noble has it right. You know how they're affiliating with the NFL?
Yes.
And they're sponsoring the NFL Combine and some of this stuff?
NFL Combine. Yep.
Right. So if they were to get more non-CrossFit athletes doing some of this stuff, I think that would be good.
Okay.
I don't want them to sell out, because I know this is going to look like selling out.
Right.
But if you had more media figures, like bigger media stars who are ordinary people.
That's
like,
a good point.
I mean, maybe not Danny DeVito, but I mean somebody who's like ordinary, who's like, you know what? I did CrossFit and this effing worked for me. And they're like ordinary type media stars.
People with real pull.
Yeah.
So that's what we're getting to. And I do agree with you on this, right? Is there are certain people that have more pull.
Yeah.
Whether they're celebrities, whether they look a certain way, whatever. And if you really do want to make a big impact, you have to get that kind of figure out in front. But it's a fine line, because you don't want it to be like The Rock. You know,
right.
You don't want it to be like a freak of nature.
No, yeah, I understand that. But I think the other thing is you got to look at the demographic. What is the breakdown of men, women at CrossFit? I mean, in our gym first.
The last time I did it, it was 60 women, 40 guys.
Yeah. Where is the growth going to be? You got to target the women, because the women are the ones who are driving growth. They're the ones who have embraced CrossFit, especially at our gym.
Yep.
And let's face it, they're just better athletes in a lot of senses. Like, you know, they're most of the, I mean, I hate the gender stereotype people, but they're coachable.
Yep.
They, you know,
They're more mobile.
they're mobile.
Yeah.
You know, they work their asses
And
off.
I do think, and I'll say this to any guy out there too, I think they have less ego issues.
Way less.
You know, like, yes, I do think women get competitive with women, but let's not go there. I'm saying when it comes to a coach telling an athlete, like, hey, you probably should not do that, you should scale this, it's almost never an issue.
Yeah.
With women. With guys, it can be a problem.
So I really feel like they need to hit the women demographic.
Okay.
Because that's what's going to drive growth. You get a bunch of, you know, middle-aged, you know, moms or other athletes, like, and you know what? Those are the ones that we see at our gym that have made the most progress.
Absolutely.
You know, they're the ones who are like, you know what? I've had 3 kids and like, I want to do something.
Their stories are a little bit more inspirational too.
Take a look at any one of our athletes at 9:30 or 7 a.m. or in the afternoon. These are the ones
amazing,
that have made the most gains.
Yeah.
And I hope he focuses on
That's a great point. I haven't even thought about that angle, because, you know, at some point they didn't bring this up. I was like, do you go into the kid market much, right? Like, not even CrossFit kids. I'm talking more like teenagers, like your kid's age. Like, do you try to get them? Is there a way for CrossFit to grow through teenagers, but they're not doing the full-blown program? I just think that what's one thing that we've heard almost everyone say? I wish I started this earlier.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I started this when I was a teenager. And now it's like, all right, well, let's see if we can get that. That I think that's another angle that he could approach CrossFit with, is getting teenagers involved in CrossFit, maybe on a safer, scaled back option, right? But I think that is where the growth of CrossFit is. The problem is that, especially with a community-based program, is they're all over the place. In terms of like Sasha with her seasons, like in and out of soccer,
Yeah,
she's going to
sports.
She's going to college soon. Like, how many times have we lost a high schooler to college? And I'm like, I get so upset when they leave. But I'm like, this is what happens.
Yeah.
But that's more of like a selfish gym owner approach. Like, when I see Olivia Webb doing the Open in Virginia after starting it here, that's a pretty cool impact that I think that some new leadership in CrossFit could kind of capitalize on and really steer the growth of it, the long-term sustained growth too.
That's where social media is going to be. There's a whole market for teenagers that I have not even realized. There are so many people on YouTube, people making $48 million a year, that all of that demographic is following, that I have no idea.
Right.
So if you can enlist them into CrossFit and say, listen, Mr. Beast does CrossFit, or, you know, did you even know who Mr. Beast is?
I have no idea who you're
See,
talking about.
that's what I'm telling you. Like, this is a dude who's like one of the biggest dudes in YouTube ever.
Is he a fitness guy?
No, he just does YouTube challenge videos or stuff. I don't even know.
Mr. Beast? All right, I know what I'm doing tonight on my Friday night.
Yeah, look him up. You'll see how much money he makes. He just opened up a ginormous restaurant or fast food place in American Dream.
Okay.
And like, it was just like swamped. It's like sold out. It's so crazy.
Mr. Beast?
Dude, you don't even know this demo.
No,
And
I don't. I definitely don't. I'm not a trendy guy at all.
I'm telling you. And if you were to get any media figures who they follow, start talking about CrossFit in an honest, true, real, not bullshit marketing way.
Yep.
Like, and that's what that is supposed to be. These YouTube stars and social media stars are supposed to be honest, unfiltered.
Well, that's kind of what I do think Faul kind of had an understanding with Savan when Savan was talking about, hey, instead of you hiring a $250,000 production company, hire all these young hustlers that are just trying to start off on their own because the cameras that they use on iPhones now are just as good as, and I think the point was making it more raw. Give these opinions, give these influencers on YouTube, TikTok, whatever it is, a real raw opportunity to grow, because that is how CrossFit grew. It was just raw, word of mouth, low budget, real stuff. And I think that is where what you're talking about, that direction that can go in.
He has some Silicon Valley experience, and hopefully he can leverage that into figuring out how to ride that social media wave for that.
Yeah.
Especially for the younger generation.
One thing he didn't touch much on, and I haven't heard him touch on this with others, I don't know if you agree with me, I haven't heard him talk much about the Open. I haven't heard him talk much about the games, and I have not heard him talk much about the CAT program.
You're right. And that, you know what? That's so smart, because when you listen to these guys, it's not about what they say, because you know what they're going to say.
Right.
It's what they're not saying that you can figure out what's going on.
Right.
And you're right. He hasn't talked about CAP. He hasn't talked about the sports side of things much. I do know, just as a side note before we get into that part, I saw Jason Khalipa on the Buttery Brothers.
Okay.
And, he's not affiliated. NC Fit is not affiliated.
Yes.
He owns like multiple editions of his NC Fit gyms out in California. And
they capitalized on CrossFit getting a little broken up during the pandemic.
They did. And it sounds like he hinted that he's going to be coming back into the CrossFit fold.
Interesting.
So I think CrossFit realizes there are some big players out there that they need to sort of work with on the affiliate side to make CrossFit more big.
Okay. I like that. So some of those like OG CrossFitters, again, those guys have pull.
Right.
Right.
But you haven't heard Mayhem or Rich Froning talk about corporate, he was more positive when Rosa came in than he hasn't said boo, I think, about Don Faul.
Yeah.
And these guys are monsters in terms of a lot of people follow Mayhem programming. A lot of people follow.
They're huge, yeah.
A lot. Yeah. I am shocked how many people follow Mayhem programming either as an affiliate or on a competitor track.
Yep.
And if you're going to be corporate CrossFit and you're going to work and grow, I think Mayhem sees CrossFit as a competitor. Mm-hmm. They see CAP as, CrossFit affiliate programming as a competitor.
Yeah.
And they're looking at them like, hey, you guys are trying to take our share.
Right.
We're
of the market.
Of our market.
Yeah.
We're growing. We have, you know how many people are Mayhem affiliate branded affiliates? Mm-hmm. There are a lot out there.
Yeah, there are.
Yep. If you ever go to the Mayhem website and you look at find a Mayhem affiliate near you, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And so what are you going to do? NC Fit's was trying to do the same thing. It sounds like they might be coming back into the CrossFit fold. Yeah. What is Don Faul going to do about all of these other sort of competing interests?
That's a really good point. That brings me to the next point was, some of the current issues that OG people have with CrossFit, the corporate side of it, and what happened under Rosa. And I think that's part of the discussion is all these guys over the past couple of years, because there's been so much change at CrossFit, so much instability that, one of the advantages of being in the game for so long, and some of these guys like Froning have been there from the beginning, they have such big pull that they really could branch off and create their own thing. I don't think he'll ever do that based on what he has said about CrossFit. I don't think he's ever going to leave CrossFit and be like, all right, it's Mayhem versus CrossFit now. I always think, but I do think there's probably going to be a conversation at some point between him and Faul, because he probably does have, in my opinion, the biggest pull of any one person that is not currently with corporate CrossFit. Do you agree?
Yes. Yeah, he has
the ability to pull, I should say.
Yes. And that's why I think the whole concept about CrossFit affiliate programming is going to be very interesting, because in the past year,
I would love to know how well that's doing.
I think it's doing awful. I was such a big, proponent. I thought they were going to take over the market.
Right.
You
thought we were going to be all under it soon.
I thought we were all going to do CAP.
And we both love James Hobart too, which he's a big, and we love him personally.
We love him. And Austin Malleolo and those guys who started it, Spencer Hendel. But I will tell you, it's struggling, and you can tell by the way they're marketing it, the way they've changed it, the way they're pushing it.
Yep.
And then just the fact that I see so many people growing under Mayhem's affiliate programming, I think they're struggling. Mm-hmm. And have you looked at the CAP program and what do you think of it?
I mean, I look at it every day. I don't look at like the lesson plans and all that stuff. I'm kind of like over that kind of stuff, but it's like CrossFit.com programming in that I think they're great workouts. I think if someone was alone in the garage by themselves and like it's a great program, but I would hate it if we had to do that programming at the gym.
Because,
well, logistics are a big part of it. Like there's certain workouts, like it just wouldn't work well. And I also think you need to know the personality and overall feel of your gym to create workouts and know where challenges can be presented, where you need to pull back a little bit. And that can change year to year, right? Where I think this is just too templated where, you can't tell me that this gym should be doing the same programming as a gym 6 miles away that doesn't have the caliber athletes that we do, right? Because again, when we talk about programming here, it's you program for the best athletes in your gym at that particular workout, right? And then everyone scales down from there. You can't compare a gym like this to, I would say 95% of the CrossFits worldwide when you're just talking about athletic ability, so why would we be doing the same program as someone else?
Do you think the creativity of CAP is lacking?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do.
That's where I think the problem lies.
Yes, I do.
Is I have looked at their programming and I don't think it's as creative as it should be.
Right, like Ryan Radcliffe, right? It's uncomfortable for me to say, but when he says one thing he doesn't like about, not that he doesn't like his new gym. He does like his new gym down there. He goes, and there's some things they do programming that we don't, that he likes, all right? So I'm just going to put out that, but he goes like, I can tell there's not a lot of thought that's put into the format of workouts. Like today's workout had a lot of thought going into it with the switching of the orders, what made the runs harder, what made them easier, why do we do the muscle ups that way at the end of the workout, why do we do them that way at the beginning of the workout based on people's capacity. But that takes a lot of thought, creativity, and just knowing the gym and wanting to make sure that it's fun for people, it's challenging for people, and it's new. My life would be a lot easier if we just did AMRAPs on Mondays, for time on Tuesdays, lift on Wednesdays, AMRAP Fridays, EMOMs on Fridays. It would be a lot easier, but that would get old really quickly.
I'm telling you, the creativity of your programming is what has made people stay with it.
Right.
And you're 1,000% right.
And you're challenging people in ways they don't even realize. That's another thing about some of these workouts. Like that Wednesday workout, the one that you coached with the you
double unders
get
and
to the max rep. Yeah. Like that was the fastest I've seen some people move. Like I don't think I've ever seen Mark Ali do jump rope burpees that fast ever. But like it created energy. Why didn't we just do like, hey guys, 5 rounds for time, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't be as stimulating. And I think that CAP lacks that.
It totally does. You know why? Because it's based on classic CrossFit programming.
Yeah, right.
Now, the other thing is I think Mayhem actually, I was reading on Reddit and some of these other forums, the reason why they've done so well, I think, is two things. One is they've upgraded their ancillary stuff, like their lesson plans and their other videos. Like they have a lot of resources now to help make these programming lessons more complete. But the second thing is, how do you think most CrossFit affiliates program? They program, how it goes, heavy strength.
Yep.
And then a Metcon or some kind of burner.
Within the same day?
In the same day.
Yeah.
Everyone does that.
Yeah, right.
And that's why I think there's a lot of burnout at a lot of gyms, and they're not as popular as they could be.
Right.
Because, who wants to do 5x5 back squat and then do a bunch of thrusters running?
Right.
You're just smoked.
Yeah, you get so beat up.
If
you're doing the same thing the next day and the next day.
Yeah, and then they're squatting heavy for like 3 days in a row.
Right.
And so, but Mayhem basically sort of plays off of that, but does it in a smarter, more creative way.
A more creative, more efficient way.
Exactly.
I've always loved Mayhem's. If there's one thing I've been the most attached to programming-wise, an organization, it's Mayhem.
Right.
And to tie that to the new CEO, we need to know, I think he needs to know that that's someone he should be talking to, because you could make the case that Mayhem's done better than CrossFit, big picture, over the past 4 or 5 years.
Yes, I would say Mayhem's growth has been more impressive over the past 4 or 5 years than CrossFit home office or HQ or whatever you want to say.
Yep.
And why is that? Because CrossFit has the muscle ability, and you know what it is? I really think it's the people in there. So you have the old biker gang that's in there.
Yep.
And you do respect the Nicole Carrolls and the Chuck Carswells and all that.
Seminar staff.
Yeah. And I've started watching more and more of the old Greg Glassman videos.
Yep.
But that foundational programming, as important as it is, has to be updated, tweaked, made more creative.
Right. Yeah.
You just can't
evolve with the times.
You just can't throw Nate out there as your WOD of the day and expect that that's going to be sufficient.
Yep.
It's just not. And Mayhem has done that. They've also brought in,
like put different angles on Nate. Like it's like a Nate. Hey guys, this is Nate on steroids, or a scaled back Nate, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And they've also incorporated Hinshaw in there.
Yeah.
And put in a lot of his principles.
That's a big part of it too.
And I'm telling you,
They've gotten a little bit more like sophisticated and more detailed with their program.
That's right. And so listen, you could go old classic foundational stuff, which should everyone know? Yes.
Yeah.
But when it comes to growing CrossFit, like that's the problem that Don Faul, it's an almost unfixable problem.
Right.
Because you're never going to disrespect the Nicole Carrolls and the Chuck Carswells.
Unless you clean house. Yeah.
Right. And you shouldn't.
Right.
But on the other hand, I think that's what CrossFit corporate's role is always going to be. The old school, this is the way you're supposed to learn CrossFit. This is the L1. Mm-hmm. These are the 9 foundational movements. This is what you're supposed to do. They'll never be as nimble and as open as a Mayhem. Mayhem only does what they do because they can spring off of what.
And you want to know also, they're very involved in their own programming.
Right.
Like you're doing the stuff that Rich is doing in his team on a scaled back version, and those guys are chasing the games. It's different. But I've seen some of their content, and like Rich is doing their bodybuilding version. You know, they have a bodybuilding program.
Right.
And like he does it. He posts about it.
Right.
And
you think corporate home office would ever do that?
No.
No.
I think you need to see does Don Faul need to videotape his workouts? No, but I do think that there's this is such a raw thing still, in my opinion, right? Like just like the actual the 5 a.m. workouts at 35 degrees, show us some more of that kind of stuff. Like you guys doing it, showing I do think it would help. I like watching James Hobart do some of the workouts or him posting about his scores on certain workouts. That kind of makes me want to do them sometimes, right? I think that there's a personal connection when you really just keep it about the workouts, right? And then if you combine that with the creativity that Rich has shown with his programming that a lot of affiliates have gotten much better at over the years, I think that could go a long way with getting a lot of people to kind of following their lead. Because that's the point of taking this thing over, right? It's like, hey guys, follow me. I'm your leader now. You know, we're going to take this thing to new heights.
I feel like it's an almost unfixable problem for Don Faul. He's going to always have CrossFit be sort of what it is.
Yep.
But to make it grow and be explode like they want it to, it's not going to be him. It's going to be the Mayhems and the other people that are on top of CrossFit that have the mobility and ability to do that. CrossFit will never be able to do that. I mean, I don't see how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. The last thing I would say that I think that one of his biggest challenges will be that the CrossFit leadership has just dropped the ball on since we've been affiliated with, since 2013 actually, is communication. And I hate being that kind of guy because I know how hard it is to always get back to people. But I've sent a few emails to CrossFit over the past 3 months and have not gotten a single thing back. And there are things that I want answers on in regards to the Open that's coming up, something that happened last year that we don't have any clarity on. And, you get these automated messages like, you will be contacted as soon as possible. Like you are, we don't get a number.
Don't we have an affiliate regional manager?
So that's another thing. We just heard from ours for the first time this past week. So maybe that is part of Don Faul's hey guys, we literally just heard. And we're one of the biggest gyms in the Northeast.
Yes.
And we just got contacted by them for the first time.
Weren't we the biggest ones in the Open for the North America?
For worldwide, I think we were top 10 worldwide. And in America, I think we were top 3.
What
top
the
4.
hell? If you have that many people at your gym and you're not actually being
proactive about that kind of stuff.
I mean, come on. Listen, this is just basic client relationship type stuff.
Right. So, I mean, maybe us getting contacted is stemming from Don Faul taking over and being like, you guys need to take the initiative more. Maybe they need more resources with how many people are doing the contact. Because if it's just one person and it's not a full-time job, it's a side gig for them. There's a lot of affiliates on the Northeast, and it's just probably too many for one person to take on. But I do think that it's not that I don't feel loyal to CrossFit. I think I'm always going to, but I feel like I would feel more loyal to them if we were simply contacted more, right? I've got that at the gym before. Someone's like, oh, no one's contacted me while I've been out of the gym. It makes you feel less a part of it.
Absolutely.
And that's, that's something that I think the new leadership, like I think that's job number one. If they want to show real affiliate support, I want to see less videos of Dave Castro talking in his garage and more like physical contact, like people coming here and coming to events, or, hey, how can we support you guys? What's coming up on your gym? Not a happy birthday once a year.
I honestly feel like they have a West Coast centric perspective
For
too,
sure.
which bothers the shit out of me because
does,
it's like,
yeah.
how many times are you going to go to fucking Diablo CrossFit or Roots, which are great gyms?
Yeah.
They're great. Or
Yeah.
Santa Cruz.
Yep.
Like, why do I have to hear about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
We're in New Jersey.
Yeah,
I'm sorry if you don't like New Jersey,
But we're
but
doing the same thing those guys are doing.
Yeah.
You could say we're doing it at a higher level.
and
too.
you know what? We're in one of the densest effing states in the country,
Yeah.
and we have like what? There's not enough growth going on in the Northeast.
Yeah.
Like I don't
Yeah.
understand it.
No, I know. It's all kind of like they kind of just do what they want to do, right? And they'll respond to messages that they want to respond to. They'll send you back maybe an email 4 weeks later. That's the kind of stuff that, it's a very personal business, and when you take that side out of it, it's like a lot of just empty talk to me.
I mean, not just Bison, but there are a lot of fairly sizable affiliates in New Jersey.
Yeah.
There are a bunch in the neighboring states.
Yep.
I mean, you see how comps, like 908 is huge. Like, you just see a lot of stuff, and it does really, really bother me that I have seen 15 or 20 mentions of everything West Coast.
Right. Of these like, meetups, affiliate owner meetups.
Yes.
With Dave Castro.
With Dave Castro, he
all in California.
Yeah, all Colorado, California.
Yeah.
Nothing. And I know they're all based out of there.
Yeah.
But if you're a national and quote worldwide organization,
Yeah.
then you're right. We need to feel that. And I'm in a customer service industry. I know what it's like to have to contact people. I will contact people literally on a regular basis a year.
Yeah.
Like 18 months after I've done something for them.
Right. Yeah.
Because you know what? It makes a difference.
It matters.
It really does.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're right. I think one of the things that Rosa dropped the ball on completely was he made all these organizational changes.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
Right.
And I don't know about Don Faul. I'm a little like he said, okay, first couple months is going to be sort of learning and all this sort of stuff. But the stuff I'm hearing him say is, I mean, the normal stuff. CrossFit is the prescription for what the world ails. Okay, great. And how are you going to fix that? Where's the marketing?
Yeah.
This is a very difficult problem. And what are you doing to reach out to your current affiliates? We haven't heard jack
Yeah.
at
Right.
all.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so where is this coming?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who are you hiring? People who know CrossFit. Okay.
What direction are you taking?
Yeah,
it in?
what is this going in? Like, I don't know. Like, and the only person who spoke most positively about him was Kalipa, who's out on the West Coast.
Right.
Froning has not said boo.
Yeah.
So where does that leave everybody?
Maybe he hasn't seen him yet. He's an East Coast guy.
I don't know. Maybe he's doing some big negotiations and something's going to happen. But right now, it's like,
Yeah, I mean, everyone deserves time. It's been a quick thing, and maybe at some point we'll get to have him on here and ask him to his face.
I don't know. I think Zuckerberg always said, move fast, break things. And I know you don't do that in CrossFit. Like, you got to be respectful and all that. But listen, there's a lot of stuff you could do right now that's a no-brainer, which is contact the affiliates.
Yep.
Make sure that they're all on board with you.
Yep.
Get their feedback. Even if it's not effing Don Faul, like, talking
Right.
to us, like,
Yeah.
somebody. Like you said, you send an email, you're not even hearing anything?
Right.
I mean,
For weeks. Yeah.
what's that about?
Yeah.
So at first I was super hopeful, and then I saw the podcast and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And now I'm sort of like, wait, is this going to be more of the same?
Right.
Because
I mean, I would say, put him in a corner and say this is more of the same until you prove otherwise. That's in my opinion.
more of the same right now is what it is.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Cool. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week. Take that, Don Faul.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.